The Roman Empire, a name synonymous with power, military prowess, and architectural grandeur. Germania, a wild and untamed land shrouded in mist and legend, dense forests, swift rivers, and treacherous terrain. The Germanic tribes, fiercely independent, presented a formidable challenge. Masters of guerrilla warfare, they vanished into the forests, reappearing unpredictably. Why did this land and its people prove insurmountable for Rome? The Roman Empire was driven by a thirst for power and wealth. Expansion meant control of resources, trade routes, and manpower. Germania, though not as wealthy, promised valuable timber, fertile lands, and potential riches. The lure of untapped resources was a powerful motivator for expansion. Roman perceptions of Germania were a mix of apprehension and allure. Seen as wild and dangerous, yet there was grudging respect for their martial prowess. Some Romans romanticized the simplicity and hardiness of the Germanic way of life. This combination fueled Rome's desire to conquer this untamed land. The Rhine and Danube rivers appeared to offer a natural boundary for Rome. These waterways provided a formidable barrier, with Roman forts and legions as deterrents. However, maintaining such a long border was a constant drain on resources. The Germanic tribes, with their fluid fighting style, could easily slip across to raid. The defeat of Varus in the Teutoburg Forest cast a long shadow over Roman ambitions. The loss of 3 legions was a humiliation that shook the empire. Subsequent emperors were wary of further expansion into Germania. The focus shifted towards consolidation and maintaining the status quo along the Rhine. The Romans often lumped all the peoples beyond the Rhine together as Germans. In reality, Germania was a mosaic of distinct tribes, each with its own customs and beliefs. Tribes like the Cherusci, Chatti, and Suebi had their own leaders and territories. They spoke different dialects and often engaged in conflicts among themselves. At the heart of Germanic society was the tribe, bound by kinship and loyalty. Unlike the Romans, the Germanic tribes valued personal freedom and independence. Their leaders ruled by consensus, and courage in battle was highly prized. They were skilled hunters, fishermen, and farmers deeply connected to the natural world. The Germanic tribes' faith was rooted in the natural world. They worshipped gods of thunder, war, and fertility with rituals in sacred groves. Woden, Odin, and Thor were prominent deities, reflecting the Germanic worldview. Their beliefs were intertwined with their daily lives and the power of the elements. The decentralized nature of Germanic society presented a challenge in resisting Rome. Their loyalties were to their own tribe, making a united front difficult. However, their guerrilla warfare tactics were highly effective against the Romans. They launched surprise attacks, ambushing Roman patrols and supply lines. Arminius, a Germanic chieftain, became a legend for his role in Rome's defeat. Born into the Cherusci tribe, he served in the Roman army, learning their tactics. He saw both the strengths and weaknesses of the Roman war machine. His growing resentment and love for his homeland set him against Rome. Arminius would use his knowledge to orchestrate one of Rome's most devastating defeats. In 9 AD, Varus, a Roman general, underestimated the cunning of Arminius. Arminius forged alliances and devised a plan to ambush Varus in the Teutoburg Forest. He lured Varus deep into the forest with false reports of a local uprising. The stage was set for a devastating ambush. trap was sprung as Varus marched deeper into the Teutoburg Forest. A violent storm broke and Arminius's forces struck. Germanic warriors overwhelmed the Roman formations in a massacre. For 3 days the slaughter continued, Roman resistance crumbling. By the end, the Roman legions were annihilated. News of the disaster sent shockwaves through the Roman Empire. The loss of 3 legions was a military and psychological blow. Augustus, the emperor, was devastated, and the defeat shattered Roman invincibility. For the Germanic tribes, the victory was a defining moment. The Rhine River became the de facto border, a testament to Arminius's legacy. The Roman army faced a formidable adversary in Germania's landscape. Dense forests and treacherous terrain concealed the movements of the Germanic tribes. The Romans struggled against the oppressive grip of the forest. The landscape bred fear and uncertainty, far from the familiar Mediterranean. Roman roads were key to their success, but in Germania they found their limits. Dense forests and unpredictable rivers hindered road building. Roads were often washed away or swallowed by the forest. The landscape resisted Roman order, turning roads into muddy tracks. Supplying the Roman army in Germania was a logistical nightmare. Long supply lines were vulnerable to ambush by Germanic warriors. The Romans devoted more men to protecting supply lines, spreading themselves thin. The logistical struggle weakened their military efforts. Time and the elements were insidious enemies in Germania. The short campaigning season and harsh winters took a toll on the Romans. Disease spread quickly, weakening the legions. Germanic tribes, unburdened by heavy baggage, harried the legions. The Romans found themselves in a war of attrition, chipping away at their strength. The Roman way of war, discipline, and conquest. The Roman army was a marvel of military organization and efficiency, renowned for their discipline, training, and strict code of conduct. Soldiers drilled to move and fight as one, a fearsome sight on the battlefield. The Romans believed in open battle, meeting enemies head-on with superior force. Section 2. The Germanic way of war, adaptability and attrition. The Germanic tribes, in contrast, had no formal military training, no standardized equipment, and no desire to fight on Roman terms. Their way of war was fluid, adaptable, and opportunistic, dictated by the terrain, the weather, and the circumstances of the moment. They were masters of guerrilla warfare, of hit-and-run tactics designed to harass, exhaust, and demoralize the enemy. The Germanic warriors, intimately familiar with the forests and swamps of their homeland, used the terrain to their advantage, ambushing Roman patrols, raiding supply lines, and then melting back into the undergrowth before the legions could respond. They were skilled hunters, trackers, and woodsmen, comfortable fighting in the close confines of the forest where Roman formations and discipline counted for little. Section 3. Clash of Titans, when legions met warriors. The clash between these two very different ways of war was often a study in contrasts. The Romans, with their heavy armor and disciplined formations, were formidable in open battle, but vulnerable in the close confines of the forest where their formations were easily broken and their movements hampered by the terrain. The Germanic warriors, lightly armed and highly mobile, could choose when and where to fight, striking from the shadows, inflicting casualties, and then disappearing before the Romans could bring their superior numbers to bear. They were fighting for their homeland, their families, their very way of life, and this gave them a ferocity and determination that often outmatched Roman discipline. Section 4. The price of arrogance, underestimating the enemy. The Romans, accustomed to victory, often underestimated their Germanic adversaries, dismissing them as undisciplined barbarians. This arrogance proved costly at Teutoburg Forest. The Romans were not invincible. Their legions were not immune to fear, to panic, to the demoralizing effects of a hostile land. The Germanic tribes could unite and inflict crushing defeats. The Roman failure to conquer Germania was a failure to understand the enemy. The Roman Empire, despite its outward appearance of strength and unity, was often a cauldron of internal rivalries and political maneuvering. Emperors rose and fell, sometimes violently, their reigns often consumed by power struggles, succession crises, and the ever-present threat of rebellion within the sprawling empire. These internal struggles inevitably diverted attention and resources away from ambitious foreign campaigns like the conquest of Germania. Following the disaster at Teutoburg Forest, the Roman Senate, once eager to expand the empire's borders, grew increasingly wary of further adventures in Germania. The memory of Varus's legions lost in the depths of the forest served as a stark reminder of the risks involved and the potential for humiliation. Pragmatism began to outweigh ambition, and the focus shifted towards consolidating existing territories, securing borders, and maintaining peace within the empire. Conquering and holding new territory was costly even for Rome. The legions required vast sums to maintain. Soldiers needed to be paid, fed, equipped, and housed. Campaigning in Germania added to the expense. Germania offered little immediate economic reward. Its wealth lay in forests, rivers, and potential for settlement. Resources required lengthy and costly development. The Roman treasury could ill afford such an investment. The Roman army, for all its might, was designed for a particular kind of warfare: open battles, set-piece engagements, where discipline, organization, and superior numbers could be brought to bear. The legions were less effective in the close, chaotic confines of the forest, where their formations were easily broken and their heavy equipment became a liability. The Germanic tribes, with their knowledge of the terrain, their fluid tactics, and their willingness to fight a war of attrition, exposed a critical vulnerability in the Roman way of war. The legions, accustomed to decisive victories, found themselves bogged down in a protracted and inconclusive conflict, bleeding men and resources in a struggle with no end in sight. As the Romans came to appreciate the difficulty of conquering Germania by force, they began to explore alternative approaches. Diplomacy, trade, and the cultivation of alliances with certain tribes offered a less costly and less risky means of influencing events beyond the Rhine. The Romans were masters of divide and conquer, and they skillfully exploited rivalries between different Germanic tribes to their advantage, by playing one tribe against another, offering gifts, subsidies, and recognition to those who cooperated. The Romans were able to maintain a semblance of control without the need for large-scale military intervention. This approach, while not as decisive as outright conquest, proved to be a more sustainable and cost-effective way of managing the Germanic frontier. The Rhine River, once a target for Roman expansion, became something else entirely, a symbol of their limitations. It transformed into a heavily fortified boundary, a line in the sand that marked the edge of their ambitions. Centuries of Roman dreams, of pushing their empire to the Elbe and beyond, were halted at the water's edge. The Romans poured resources into fortifying this natural barrier. Fortresses, watchtowers, and legionary camps sprouted along the Rhine, creating a formidable defensive line. It was a testament to Roman engineering, but also a constant reminder of their unconquered neighbors. The Rhine became a zone of uneasy coexistence. Trade flowed across the river, and some Germanic tribes were incorporated as Roman allies, their warriors serving in the Roman army. But the underlying tension remained, a constant threat lurking in the shadows of the forest beyond the Rhine. The Roman failure to conquer Germania had far-reaching consequences, contributing in a roundabout way to the eventual downfall of the Western Roman Empire. The legions stationed along the Rhine, meant to deter Germanic incursions, ironically, became a conduit for Germanic influence within the empire. Over time, Germanic warriors, integrated into the Roman army as auxiliary troops, rose through the ranks, gaining valuable military experience and knowledge of Roman tactics. This integration, while initially beneficial to Rome, would later backfire. As the Western Roman Empire weakened, beset by internal strife and economic woes, these Germanic soldiers, now deeply enmeshed within the Roman military structure, saw an opportunity. They rebelled, carving out their own kingdoms within the crumbling edifice of Roman power. The term barbarian, often used dismissively by the Romans to describe those outside their civilization, took on a new meaning in the late Roman period. Germanic tribes, once a nuisance on the frontier, became a significant force within the empire itself. The Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, the Vandals and other Germanic groups, once kept at bay by the legions, exploited Roman weakness. They crossed the Rhine and Danube rivers not as raiders but as conquerors, establishing kingdoms within the former Roman provinces. The sack of Rome by the Visigoths in 410 AD was a symbolic turning point, a stark illustration of how far the mighty Roman Empire had fallen. The barbarians, once at Rome's gates, were now masters of their own destiny, their rise fueled in part by their centuries-long struggle against Roman domination. The Roman failure to conquer Germania was not just a military defeat, it was a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit, the desire for freedom, and the ability of a people to resist even the mightiest of empires. The Germanic tribes, though often divided amongst themselves, shared a fierce love of independence, a deep connection to their land, and a warrior spirit that proved difficult to break. Their successful resistance against Rome helped to shape the political and cultural landscape of Europe for centuries to come. The legacy of Germania is not just one of resistance, but also of adaptation and transformation. The Germanic tribes, while contributing to the fall of the Western Roman Empire, also absorbed elements of Roman culture, language, and law, laying the groundwork for the emergence of new, vibrant societies in the heart of Europe. The Roman Empire, for all its power and grandeur, could not conquer everything. Germania, the land of dense forests and fierce warriors, stood as a testament to the limits of even the mightiest empires. The Roman failure in Germania was a slow, grinding war of attrition against nature and a determined foe. Rome's inability to conquer Germania serves as a reminder that even the most powerful empires are not invincible. The Roman encounter with Germania is a story of both triumph and tragedy. It speaks to the enduring power of the human spirit and the will to resist oppression. What if Rome had conquered Germania? Would Europe look different today? Would the Roman Empire have endured longer? Would the Germanic tribes have lost their unique identity? These are questions that historians have pondered for centuries. History is full of twists and turns, of unforeseen consequences. The Roman legacy lives on in the languages we speak and the laws we uphold. The story of Germania reminds us that the human spirit can prevail. The spirit of resistance continues to resonate through the ages.